In the wake of the Trump administration's erratic, destabilizing tariff blitz, Chinese President Xi Jinping has seized a moment ripe with geopolitical opportunity and wrapped it in a diplomatic velvet glove. But behind Xi's carefully constructed charm offensive lies a ruthless strategy, one that aims not only to undermine American global leadership, but to rewrite the rules of international trade and power in China's image. The reality is that this isn't just a series of diplomatic visits. This is a full-blown soft power invasion of a wounded economic battlefield, with the United States caught in a storm of its own making. The message behind Xi's tour of Southeast Asia is neither subtle nor benign. His visits to Vietnam, Malaysia, and soon Cambodia are deliberate steps to gather up the wreckage of America's shattered trade relations. Trump's tariffs, some exceeding 45% or even 145%, have not only inflicted enormous economic pain on China, but also on countries like Vietnam and Malaysia, whose economies heavily depend on U.S. markets. These sweeping, unpredictable tariffs have thrown regional economies into chaos, triggering production halts, collapsing contracts, and paralyzing the flow of goods. Trump's moves have effectively broadcast a single message to America's partners: you cannot trust the U.S. economy anymore. And Xi is offering an alternative: China as the steady hand, the voice of reason, the defender of multilateralism. It's an extraordinary reversal of global narratives. Where once China was seen as the opaque, authoritarian disruptor, it now positions itself as the calm steward of globalization. This rebranding is dangerous because it distracts from the deeply coercive nature of China's own trade practices, surveillance state, and censorship regimes. Xi Jinping is not offering a better world order. He's offering a more predictable one under his control. Trump's chaotic implementation of tariffs, frequently announced, sometimes walked back, always laced with hostility, has alienated traditional U.S. allies and handed Beijing an open door. From Europe to Asia, countries are left scrambling to protect their economies from American economic aggression. In Vietnam, a third of its GDP relies on trade with the U.S., and now those supply chains are breaking down. Xi's message in Hanoi, denouncing unilateral bullying, is designed to resonate not just with governments, but with the global business community desperate for stability. Make no mistake, this moment is not a diplomatic victory for China. It's a surrender by the U.S., not through treaties, but through incompetence and short-sighted policy. Beijing is not winning hearts. America is losing them. Xi's ambitions are far-reaching. His message to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez to align with China against unilateral bullying is a carbon copy of the rhetoric used in Vietnam. This repetition is no accident. It's a script. And it's working. The European Union, weary of U.S. volatility, has already begun to thaw relations with Beijing, even reopening trade discussions about Chinese electric vehicles, despite recent tariffs of their own. Beijing isn't just making inroads. It's preparing the foundation for a China-centric economic system. If current trends continue, the U.S. risks losing its place at the head of the global economic table. More than that, it risks becoming an unpredictable, destabilizing force that other nations try to work around rather than work with. And yet the consequences of this U.S.-inflicted economic self-sabotage go deeper. Countries like Japan and South Korea, both of which are essential U.S. military allies, have been slammed with new tariffs as well. These nations, already trapped between Chinese economic influence and U.S. military protection, are now forced to reconsider the reliability of Washington. Tokyo and Seoul are caught in a precarious bind, dependent on U.S. security guarantees, but increasingly reliant on China for trade, and now publicly punished by Trump's tariff measures. This is not how alliances are maintained. It's how they are dissolved. China's grip tightens not just with trade deals and press conferences, but with financial weapons that are all too real. China holds over $700 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds, an enormous amount of American debt. If tensions escalate further, China could offload those holdings, destabilizing U.S. bond markets, spiking interest rates, and imperiling America's ability to finance its own government. It is an economic time bomb the U.S. built for itself, using Chinese capital. So while Xi Jinping tours Asia with smiles and statements about cooperation, The real warning is buried beneath the surface. The United States has never been more vulnerable to losing its economic dominance, not because of China's brilliance, but because of its own destructive policies. And there is a bitter irony here. For all of Trump's promises to put America first, his policies have isolated the U.S., sabotaged its credibility, and empowered its largest strategic rival. The costs are staggering: a weakened alliance network, broken supply chains, rising prices for American consumers, and an emboldened China positioning itself as the world's new economic anchor. What's even more dangerous is the belief, common in political circles in Washington, that this is somehow sustainable, that the U.S. can bludgeon its allies and rivals alike into submission through sheer economic force. But tariffs are not surgical instruments. They are blunt weapons that hit everyone, including those who wield them. The longer the U.S. continues this scorched earth approach, the more irreparable the damage becomes, not just to American consumers or businesses, but to the very foundation of the global order it once led. Xi Jinping is not merely capitalizing on the chaos. He is actively reshaping the post-American economic world. And if this continues, that world won't just include more Chinese trade deals. It will be built around Chinese standards, Chinese institutions, and Chinese values. In that future, the United States will not be feared, nor respected. It will be pitted as the nation that lit its own house on fire, then handed its rival the keys.